Hi everyone, welcome to this session 3 of Grow on our finances. You cannot get a topic I think that's so or as important right now across the globe as this one. I'm really excited to have with us again Peter Gomm. Been such a blessing in the life of our church and such a help to so many people. But I'm also excited to have 3 brilliant young adult leaders here with us. Gabby Partha, Liz Schofield and Danny Todd here with their brilliant questions. If you missed the last session of this with these 3, you really want to go back. I thought it was some of the most profound stuff came out as a result of their questions and some of their input to that. It really is brilliant. Up there again on our YouTube channel, stays up there, metrochurch.online. Keep in mind, of course, that you're always welcome here at Metro. We love having people come and join us for the first time. We'd love to celebrate you, be a blessing. Don't forget, next Sunday, of course, it's on a men day. That's what we call it here at Metro. It's Father's Day everywhere else around this nation. We go all out and really making our men feel special. So for the women, it's Celebrate Women's Day, Mother's Day, everywhere else. But we wanted to widen it out because that's just the kind of church we are. We've done the same with the men. By the way, while I'm speaking about being generous, thank you to every single one of you that continues to be faithful to God in your tithes and your offerings. You know our heart here is never to bring pressure, but I always want to bring honor. And I want to make sure that we're celebrating you and saying thank you to each one of you. Thank you for obeying God in that area. And I know that His blessing will be on you in your home, in your life. I talk to people all the time here in this church who tell me about the results of God's blessing being in their life. And so we're praying for you and praying that God will thoroughly pour out His blessing into your life. But let's dive right in. Danny, you were asking about financial stress.
Yes.
What an important thing it is to be able to get rid of some of that stress off our life.
Yeah.
Here's the man himself. Here's the expert. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the context for that one is I see a lot of people around me these days that are starting to get real heavy into investing or put a lot of time into research and understanding, and it starts, I guess, consume a lot of their personal life and their spare time, and you can just see them getting real stressed about it, and it's starting to impact them emotionally. And I guess trying to get that balance right of being wise with your finances, but not letting it consume you or hold on to it too tightly that it starts impacting your personal life. I guess it's a hard balance to strike. I guess from your experiences, how have you seen people cope with that? And what are some effective strategies that people can put in place to make sure they're, I guess, still looking after themselves and not getting too caught up in financial stress? Or if they find that they are, how do they come out of it?
Well, I'm guessing there'd be a lot of young people, and not even young people, but a lot of people who'd be pretty stressed at the moment if they invested in Bitcoin or any of those investments, if that's what you want to call it. And I use that term loosely. Over the last 18 months and even today.
Dive right in, Bitcoin. Tell us what you really think.
Well, you've all heard me say before, don't invest money you can't afford to lose, and don't invest in something you don't understand. No one understands Bitcoin, so why would you? So that's as much as I have to say on that. So that obviously would be a cause of financial stress. The stock market hasn't been performing very well. So if you'd invested only a couple of months ago, you'd be in strife. And so again, you don't really want to, when you're investing, if it means that you're worried about it and if you're studying the stocks every day because if they go down, it's going to kill me, well, guess what? You shouldn't be investing in stocks. Get the heck out of them.
Let me ask you while you're on that, because it runs a bit parallel to that, is gambling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because what you're really saying, if you don't understand it, and you can't afford to lose it, you're really gambling.
Correct.
And I've got some friends of mine that I know that have put money into things and had no idea about that industry at all. And I thought it's no different to going down and putting on the roulette wheel, I would imagine. What's your thing on gambling?
Well, I think if you rather than actually going into the casino, you might as well just go down the driveway, wind down the window, chuck $50 out the door, and just keep going because at least you save yourself some time. You know what the result's going to be. Yeah. So, I'm really, really critical these days of organisations like the AFL, where one of the larger sports betting companies is the major sponsor, and yet you've got young footballers who suddenly get $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, plenty of time on their hands, and what do we do? So I would just download the app, or while you're having watching the footy, you can have a I don't know, what is it, a 6-bet multi or something like that, just boom, gone, and then you can double up and triple up and quadruple up and all that.
Can I just ask you guys, is that something that any of your friends circle, or well, let's not dob your friends in, but any of the people that maybe you know or you've heard about, is gambling used to be the old blokes going down to the TAB.
But it was almost like a day out, I think.
But now there's apps
Yeah.
that you can just, they pick up the phone and download it. Is that a thing?
They're all over
Definitely.
it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think at least for a lot of my friends, it's sports betting. Where it's just,
Really?
every
Just like
weekend
a
they'll
thing
put a
that you
few bets
do,
on, and
yeah.
it becomes a social thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Of you might go out as a team and be like, all right, everybody chuck on one leg of a 10-leg multi, and if we get it, we'll split it.
Or they advertise now, get it with your mates and have like a group.
And it becomes almost a habitual, socialistic.
They're very clever, aren't they,
exercise
in
of-
putting relationship into the mix. It's no longer just a competitive thing of the individual. It's now, I'm doing this with my mates. Yeah.
And it's like, who did you put money on this week?
Yeah, well.
Or and it just goes from there. And it's very addictive. I haven't been involved a whole lot because my philosophy is always, if the company's doing it and making money, then they must be getting the money from somewhere. And if they weren't making money, they wouldn't still be around. So
I just tell people, go down to the casino. There's no fake marble down there. You know, if you go down there and it's got gold all around the place, you know that they're making money. They're not losing it. Yeah, it's pretty much the way it goes.
I mean, my hope is it'll go the same way as cigarette advertising did in the early 80s, where
Wow.
AFL and Formula One and all those are all sponsored by cigarette advertising. And you'll get, look at the old replays from the 1980s, it's all cigarette advertising. And these days there's lots of, you just watch an AFL game and there's probably about 6 ads in between kicking a goal, and it's all on gambling. And also some of the AFL teams they're either sponsored by a gambling company or by crypto companies as well. There's at least 2 AFL teams I've seen, and big bold print, promoting cryptocurrency apps and stuff like that.
Wow.
So
Have many of your friends got crypto stuff?
especially when I was in my last job, which was, I guess, technology consulting, there was a lot of people interested in that technology space, in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and the metaverse and how that's going to take over. And there's, a lot of them have got a reasonable amount of money in there. But it's always interesting. They never really like talking about exactly how much they've got in or how much they've lost or made. It's always just saying it's in there. But there's still a lot of, I guess, vagueness, and it's almost like a cool thing to be doing it and to be involved.
it's like a gamble. They never tell you what they lost. They only tell you, I got the
They
yesterday.
tell you when, and you'd come into work the next day and they'd be like, oh, did you see the prices this morning? Gone up. Yeah, so good. The next day they'll be like, do you see prices? No, don't talk to me. Not today.
I think most people would be shocked if they really read the Bible to discover how much wisdom about finances in there. Like there's a great verse where it says, that wealth got in haste will fly away. You know, that the quick fix thing. A lot of what you've been saying in our last couple of sessions has been about, it sounds a bit boring I guess to some people, but it's about just the slow build-up of stuff. I mean, Gabby, you were asking a question about when's the right time to start saving for a house.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think when I turned 20, I was like, whoa, I turned 20. And then also a couple of months later, got a full-time job and then getting some more money. I'm like, I should start being responsible. And then past couple of weeks, walked around Vic Park with Dad and saw all these houses getting renovated. I was like, should start building a house. So I actually talked to Pete for a little bit about that. Okay. But I'd be interested about when should I start saving for a house.
As soon as you can. So, the sooner you get, I mean, for example, that client who's saved up $150,000 from when he was 15 till a couple of years ago. So he started when he was 15. And he's always had those sort of aspirations, but you don't expect someone to save that much. But the sooner you can start saving, the better for a goal. And again, you're only young, so in my view, you still want to spoil yourself, have a good time with your mates, and say, "No, sorry, I can't go out with you. That's not in my budget." You got to have a good time. Get yourself set up first with essential things like maybe getting a car and some wheels, so you're independent. And being able to do things like shout mum and dad out to dinner, that's a good thing. Those sorts of things. Pay me after, Solomon. That's a good thing. But then once you've got yourself set, then establish goals and then start saving for those goals. And like you said, if you have a quick fix, you don't appreciate it. So, just no worries, I'll just get another one. Whereas if you save up for a car and then you get that car and you think, oh wow, you really appreciate that car or the home or whatever it might be. Otherwise, you just never appreciate it. It's just part of today's instant gratification sort of type society.
Yeah, okay.
So speaking about the housing market though, Pete, for these young guys, cool, the whole idea of a house, in this kind of environment, we've gone from a couple of months ago, it was housing prices, we are in Boom City. It's all going to take off. Then the first interest rate hike, and all of a sudden all we read is the sky is falling and it's all over and don't do anything and lettuce are $11 a lettuce or something like that. So how do we make sense? And I really want for our young adults, I want them to face the future with confidence and faith, not with fear and, what should these guys be thinking about when it comes to the housing market or the future or whatever?
Well, first of all, I think, again, it all goes to the media and headlines, etc. Rates have gone up. Yes, they've gone up for the first time in 12 years. But guess what? That should never have been a surprise to anyone. Whatever comes down goes back up, and whatever goes up comes back down. And even though we've had 2 rate rises, we're still at historically very, very low rates. So, I mean, if 2 years ago you'd told someone that interest rates were going to be about 3%, you'd have kissed them on both cheeks saying, thank you, I'll take the money and run. Whereas now, rates have gone up, panic station. So if after 1 or 2 rate rises you're in panic mode, that tells me you borrowed way too much in the first place. And we always advocate, look, the bank will lend you that much over there. Over there you have an awesome life but a miserable life, so maybe come back over here. But now with interest rates at all-time lows, actually maybe come back over here, because the first time rates go up, I don't want to see you on a current affair saying, that crook Peter Gomm, he never should have arranged that finance, he should have known I couldn't afford that. And these days, the way things are, people don't want to accept responsibility for their own actions. So if we say no, another bank will say yes, and beauty. But then as soon as the chips are down, guess what? Who can I blame? Who can I sue? So I think you've got to sort of put it in perspective as far as that goes. The other thing is, there's a number of really great government schemes around that can help people such as first home buyers and even single parents, etc., which maybe aren't well understood or known. So the first of those, the most widely known, is the First Home Owners Grant. With that, if you buy a brand new property, or you buy that's never been lived in, or you buy an off-the-plan property, or you buy a block and build, you're entitled to a $10,000 grant up to a maximum purchase price of $750,000. If you're buying an established or a new property, you also get stamp duty concessions. So up to maximum purchase price of $430,000. If Geoff or I were buying that property, it would cost us about $14,000 in stamp duty, but for you guys, it's nothing. Above 430 up to 530, you start paying stamp duty, but it's at a discounted rate. But the amount of that discount runs out rapidly until when you hit 530,000, no discount. There's also another little known grant called Arriba Grant, which stands for Real Estate and Business Agents Board. 2 criteria, maximum purchase price of $400,000, and you must buy it through a licensed real estate agent. That means it can't be a private sale. And for that, once settlement's gone through, you can make application for that and you get $2,000 cash back. But more particularly, or probably more helpful for first home buyers, it's always hard to raise a deposit. So one way of getting around that, you might go to the bank of mum and dad and they might agree to be guarantor for you, pledging their house as security. But we don't want too many mud pies thrown at me, so I won't go there. But that is one option. But there's a couple of other government schemes that came out, and just let me lay my hands on. The first one, it's a first home loan deposit scheme. And it's also another one which is very similar, which is a new home guarantee scheme. And basically what it is that you're only required to save a 5% deposit. So if you save 5%, the government will effectively act as guarantors, maybe in lieu of your parents. So normally if you borrow more than 80%, you'd have to pay this ugly thing called mortgage insurance, which might be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. In addition, you pay a pretty ugly interest rate. But under this government scheme, if you've saved 5% of the purchase price, so if you bought something for $400,000, you'd pay no stamp duty, you get the $2,000 Arriba grant, and if you save $20,000, that means you'll be borrowing $380. 80% of 400 is $320, so the government will guarantee the bank the rest of that $60,000, so you don't pay any mortgage insurance. They only need a 5% deposit. So that's really good. And that's the same for if you're a new home buyer. And then if you're a single parent, the scheme is very similar, but you only need a 2% deposit. And the government will guarantee the rest down to 80%.
Where do you find all this stuff out? Like, I don't know about the rest of you, but I sit here going, I haven't heard of half of this. Yeah. And I think, how does well, obviously they come to you and you can tell them all this stuff, but most of us, I don't think it would have changed all that much. We don't learn personal finance at school. They don't teach you any of that. They don't teach you anything. You know, I learned a whole lot of stuff about the dates of the Kings of England, which might have been nice to know, but no one taught me anything about money. Is that the way you guys kind of feel? It's like it's a big package of mystery.
Yeah. 100%. I guess a couple of things I did when I first started working full time was okay, I want to understand superannuation a bit better and make sure I'm with a good super company. I want to understand budgeting a little bit, and more recently I've started looking at some of the house and the incentives, and I've chatted with Peter Gomm as well. So okay, I need to go out of my way and just do a whole bunch of Google, search through everything, just try to make sense of it. And more recently as well, a few weeks ago, I was like, I want to understand credit cards a bit better. When are they useful? When are they not so useful? Should I be thinking about getting one? And I guess, yeah, these sessions that I'm having with Peter Gomm is perfect for this, because there's a lot of myths out there or misunderstandings, and there's so much information you don't know what's true, what to filter through, or even how to work through some of the, I guess, bank jargon and the numbers behind it, because it gets very complicated very quickly.
That's a good point, because there's so much stuff that, you know, you need to have a degree in literature, I think, to be able to figure out what on earth they're talking about sometimes, hey?
Absolutely.
So when you actually, so if you came to us to apply for a loan, for example, we would actually say, did you know that this scheme is available? And then we would actually help you to apply for those respective grants. There's also, you touched on super, Danny, there's also a first home super saver scheme into which you can either, or you can contribute up to a maximum of $30,000. You can put that money into super, and you can even, what they call salary package into that super, which means before the government takes tax out of your pay, that money can be paid directly into the super fund. So for example, if your income was $40,000 a year and you salary sacrifice $10,000 straight into super, you only pay tax on the $30,000.
Did any of you know about this?
I learned it at the start of the year.
Okay,
I just started doing it.
And so then when you, and so
it's a pretty big.
Yeah, so you can save tax on it, but you pay 15% tax on the way into super, but that's much less than what you would pay on that income normally.
If you're a single young person earning a pretty good wage, that's a great way to kickstart your super while you can do it, because you're not bound to doing that every year, are you?
No, it's up to you as to when you do it.
Yeah, right.
Yep. And then when you're ready to buy a property, you let the tax department know. They let you know how much you've got. While it's in the super fund, they have like a deeming rate. And as at last year, the deeming rate was 4.7%, which is way more than you get sitting in a bank account. And then they will release the savings once you've bought the property, and away you go. So that's a really good scheme as well.
There's a lot of things in there that are available, aren't there? That's amazing.
And so a lot of people don't know about those, but as I say, we sort of point those out when they come to see us for a home loan. The other thing you talked about there too was about credit cards and whether I should get one, which also harks back to one of the issues you raised in last month's session about getting a credit. Should I apply for credit just to bump up my credit check? And I said, no, not for the purposes of that. So to me, and I've said this before, don't use a credit card to spend money you haven't got. Use a debit card to use money that you do have. So to me, the only circumstance under which you'd get a credit card would be you might want to use it for overseas, and you might actually put it in credit and use it overseas to access ATMs or as a debit card to buy goods and services. And so there's a couple of cards out there where it's free to use overseas, whereas otherwise most other credit cards charge you a fortune when you use them overseas. So that might be one example. Two might be that you use it in conjunction with a home loan. So if you had a home loan that had an offset account, and for those out there in TV land who don't know what an offset account is, you might have a home loan over here on which you owe $400,000, and then you might have $10,000 sitting over here in your savings account or offset account, and all that means is the bank just charges you interest on whatever the net balance is between those. So if you owed $400,000 here and $10,000 sitting in your savings account, the bank would only charge you interest on $390,000. So using a credit card in conjunction with that, you can park all your expenditure on the credit card, use up the interest-free period on the credit card, and on the day when the bank's about to start charging you interest, you pay that. The bank will debit your savings account, pay that off in full. So the advantage of that is that's kept or maximised your balance in your offset account, whilst all your expenses are chalking up in the on the credit card, thereby saving you interest on your home loan.
Wow.
So that's a big benefit there. Other than that, though, and the other reason might be if you're trying to accumulate frequent flyer points. But getting frequent flyer points, quite often the fees outweigh the benefits.
I just flew a couple of weeks ago, and trust me, it's like the number of points since COVID that they want for you to go anywhere have just gone.
And if you're trying to use frequent flyer points to go from here to Brisbane, it takes you 3 days to get there. And
that was where my question came from. Is like, lots of people use their frequent flyer points. And I'm like, okay, is it reasonably quick to accumulate, or what's the benefit?
But it can be in some cases. Like there's some banks out there. There's one bank announced a special the other day for home loans where they'll give you 300,000 frequent flyer points. So you get them think, oh wow, okay.
You can go to Bali and back now.
My house, I get points, so I can go fly and
So yeah, some of those specials. Other than that, I wouldn't advocate going down the credit card path, to be honest. Again, if you can pay for cash for everything and use a debit card, happy days.
It's not either, though, just about not doing stuff. It's about having some idea, even if your only goal is, I want to be financially free so that I'm able to make choices. Because this is what I know, is if you have no buffers in your life or you have no margin, your choices shrink to that. And you end up in a place where you're not able to go and we're not talking about luxuries for yourself. I'm talking about even just being able to give or to bless or to do whatever you might want to do for others, and all of a sudden you can't. And I think I've lived both sides of that equation, and I certainly prefer the one of going, I want to be able to be a blessing in people's lives, that's for sure.
Yeah, and again, we talked about it previously, but again, unfortunately, in today's society, it's all about trying to keep up with the Joneses, peer pressure that Lizzie referred to with the students at school, and working early just so they can keep up with the Joneses. So I'm showing my age here. The kids have to wear school uniforms these days?
Yes.
Well, at least that's a good thing. But they'd still wear Converse or something with the school uniform.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how you dress it up.
We used to have barters with a free compass in the heel, but anyway.
Wow. Wow.
So everyone had barter shoes, so we're all pretty much equal. When we walked into school, we didn't have Converse or any of that sort of stuff.
Great.
Or Dunlop volleys.
Well, listen, I hope this has been helpful. If any of you got any last question or comment you want to make here, anything burning in your heart, you go, Pete, I've got to know this before I go.
No, I can always book a session with him, so it's all good.
There you go.
Liz, anything from you?
No, actually, you ticked off a lot of my questions even before I had to ask them. So, yeah, we're all good.
Wow.
No, all good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's great.
You know where I am.
Hey, listen, we're praying for you guys as well, because we really want to see you guys set up for the best of whatever God's got for you. Because I think, and I love what, the step Gabby's taken of saying, I'm actually not sure I could just track up this path, because obviously you were doing well. You wasn't like the first year was a bust. You're doing well. But then going, but God, what do you want for my life? And I think that's one of the things, that for each one of you, there's a sense of, I feel called to this. I know, Liz, when I was talking to you when you were studying and there'd be exam stress and all the rest of that, but there was a sense of, but I'm meant to be doing this. It's not just a job that I happen to be good at. There's a sense of call for that. And I think that's what I think makes following Christ so special, is you realise that there's a plan for your life. So it's no longer just about, am I tracking along? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be happy? Am I going to find Mr. or Miss Right? Am I going to, have money in the bank or have that thing that I want? It's about going, there's something deeper within us that says, I want to please God, I think, anyway. I've been amazed over the years when people come to Christ, something inside of them really does change. They really do shift in the things that matter to them. And some of the thought patterns around, like just serving or wanting to be a blessing or being kinder or more loving or whatever, there is something. I don't think it makes Christians better. I just think it gives you a very different outlook on life, which is pretty remarkable. So, yeah. So, Danny, I think I might break with tradition. I might just ask you to pray for your generation. Would you do that?
Yes.
That'd be cool. Thanks. And
Dear Lord, we come before you tonight. We lift up these sessions that we've been having, the discussions and topics we've been talking about on finance. We thank you that there is wisdom, there is experience out there. We thank you that you guide us in how to be wise with our finances and how to not just, I guess, live a life for ourselves, but for others and to be a blessing for the people around us. We especially want to lift up the younger people of the generation coming through, Lord, who I guess are still learning how to value money, what the use of money is and how to use it wisely for themselves and the people around them. And we just pray that as they get bombarded by information, Lord, that you would just be able to provide some clarity in their hearts and in their minds, Lord. They'll be able to seek wisdom and wise counsel from people more experienced or who are in the right industries and areas. And we pray that in all these things, you would just continue to work in them and through them so that they can live a life that you have planned for them and also help and support others around them that might be in need. We just pray that as we continue to go forward, you'll just continue to grow in us and in the communities around us and let us be a blessing to those around us. And we pray all this in your almighty name. Amen.
Amen, amen. Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Gabby. Thank you, Peter, again. But listen, just before we go again, I never ever like to finish these moments with you without taking the opportunity to talk to you about receiving Christ into your life. You know, over the years, I've seen thousands, I guess, of people give their life to Christ, make the decision, I'm going to allow Jesus not just to touch me or to, engage with me, but I'm going to allow him to be the Lord of my life. I'm going to allow him to be the guidance of my life. I think that one of the greatest blessings that all of us here would probably pick in that our top few things about following Christ is the fact that, he guides you. You can look back over your life and go, even if it wasn't like a, massive big supernova kind of blinding light kind of a deal, but you look back over your life and go, God was there. He was looking after me. He guided me. And I think that's one of the greatest promises that God gives to his children. He says, I will lead you. Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice. I call them by name. So he knows who you are. And no matter who you are, God knows you and wants to engage with you, wants you to open your life and say yes to Jesus. And we would love to be a part of helping you with that. If you would like to text the word yes, Y-E-S, simple as that. Just text that through to the number on your screen there right now. If you're in Australia, it's 0488 826 392. If you're outside of Australia, or if you'd like to get our help via email, it'll come to you every day. Then you just simply go to yes.metrochurch.org.au. Of course, if you're with us on the metrochurch.online platform, you just click on the yes button. It's there for you right now. And we would love to help you. We will be praying for you for sure. We'll also be sending to you each day, just fits on one screen of the smartphone actually, a Bible verse, different every day, and a prayer, different every day. We do that because we know that for some people, I had a man say to me recently, I just don't understand the prayer thing. He said, I don't know how to. Never grew up in a home where prayer was ever even spoken of. And so I simply prayed with him, just like you did or like you did. We've all got our own way of doing it, but we want to help you get started because prayer is you communicating with God. The Bible is God communicating with you. And we believe that God's got a great life for you. We believe that you can know Jesus and that you can be profoundly touched and become a great blessing for others as well. So thank you for that. Just send in your yes text. We'll be praying for you. By the way, you're always welcome here at Metro. Don't forget again, next Sunday, it's on a Monday. We'd love to see you here, man or woman. You're more than welcome. It'll be a very special day. But at any time, you're welcome here at Metro. Thank you for joining with us. God bless you. We'll see you somewhere soon. Bye.